Moon Knight, Marvel's latest TV show, drops on Disney Plus at the end of this month, and we got a chance to catch up with Grant Curtis, the executive producer of the show, for a conversation about why this character is such an interesting addition to the MCU. Check it out.
Are we back on the 5th floor?
Yes, the 5th. My friend Claire lives here. I'm visiting her. She's expecting me.
What's going on?
Grant, it is an absolute pleasure to speak to you. With every new movie and TV show, I feel like we're going deeper into the rabbit hole. And I think the thing I loved most about Moon Knight was that it felt like a fresh start. It felt like something new. And I was wondering if you could talk to me about the decision to not have this immediately connect so deeply into the MCU.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that goes back to the genius that is Kevin Feige. And, Kevin knows first and foremost, you have to keep looking for different canvases to paint on, or else, you're going to have narratives that start to feel repetitive. And so very early on in the development process, Kevin said, let's look at the origin story of Moon Knight. It's so Egyptology centric. Let's really lean into that globetrotting action adventure that we don't have that exact canvas painted in the MCU elsewhere. He said, so let's lean into that Indiana Jones-esque adventure and let's run with it. And, with Mohammed Diab, a great Egyptian filmmaker leading the charge, it's a pretty groovy adventure. I think we take the audience on starting March 30th.
Yeah, well, talk to me about that origin story, right? Because given the relative obscurity of the character, you guys didn't take the traditional origin story route. And talk to me about that decision, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always felt that such a decision is kind of rooted in how strong the brand is, in that there's an implicit trust in the MCU, so you can do some crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's threads of the origin story in our story. It's just not something that hits you right away. And I think that's really a testament to our head writer, Jeremy Slater, and our incredible writer's room that originated this story. It's like looking at 50 years, give or take, of rich narrative and really looking at what stories to take from. And as you can imagine, there's not one exact comic book or run of comics that we really took whole cloth. What we really did was we looked at the themes and the tones that made Moon Knight successful over decades.
Right.
And those themes and tones are action adventure, some violence, some heavy-handedness in that aspect, but also horror, scary things, things go bump in the night in Moon Knight stories. So we leaned into that. Also the comedy of it. So you look at all those tones and themes, and I think that's really what generated what you're going to start seeing on March 30th.
Oh, which brings me nicely to my next question, because I wanted to talk about that horror and a little bit of the violence, because Moon Knight feels a little more grown up than the other stuff. And it doesn't feel like you were going for, hey, let's get all the kids in Moon Knight costumes next Halloween. You know what I mean? It feels a little more adult. What kind of inspired that decision?
Well, as you know, the horror, quote unquote, in Moon Knight is not graphic. It's more just tense storytelling and continuing to peel back that narrative layer that is a little bit spookier. Because, we do have episodes that are more horror-esque than others. And I think that's what we really looked at when looking at Moon Knight, is how can we continue to tell different aspects of the Moon Knight character and lean into those. And one of those was, as we alluded to, kind of the spookier side of Moon Knight.
Very cool. Grant, I think I'm out of time, but it's an absolute pleasure talking to you. They gave us 4 episodes. It was a blast. We're really looking forward to the rest of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
That was Grant Curtis, the executive producer of Moon Knight. Check out the series when it drops on Disney Plus Hotstar on Wednesday, March 30th. Let us know what you think once you've seen it. Sound off in the comments below. Check out our other interviews on YouTube. Like, share, tell your friends, tell your family. You know what to do.